dealing with the 19 items in which we are requesting protection from HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this V'yehi Ratzon in a single panel would not be possible. And for this reason, I have divided up these items, beginning with the first 6, into a series of broad categories. Category 1 seems to be one in which the focus is upon interpersonal relationships within society. The Azepanim, the Adam Ra, Chaver, Shachen, Ra. The only one that doesn't seem to fit this category is the Pega Ra. Second category appears to involve speech, and for this reason, it most probably would be more appropriate to link the request for protection against Lashon Hara with category 2, the Malshinim, the Edut Sheker, and the Alila. Odd man out in this category appears to be the Sinat Habriot. Malshinim contains the 3 critical letters Lamed, Shin, Nun. Lashon, speech. Lashon, and language. Mi Malshinim, with a double mem prefix. The first mem translates as from. The second mem, when attached to a noun, implies one who is involved with the leshinut, with speech. Speech of in itself is neutral and therefore can be positive and useful or negative and destructive. In this case, we are asking God from protection against those individuals who use speech to harm another. The 19th bracha of the Shmoneh Esrei begins with the words V'lamal shinim, and is a direct request of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to take responsibility in dealing with people who use speech for a destructive end, whether the other is the individual or the other is an organization. Chabad's translation for the malshinut is a request for protection against slander, which is the action or crime of making a false spoken statement damaging to a person's reputation. On that basis, malshinut would differ from lashon hara in that malshinut is a legal concept which can lead to criminal and civil charges known as libel and defamation. The difference being, in a very general sense, slander is verbal, where libel is a defamation that finds itself in the written or published formats. Another area involving speech, and possibly the most serious, is Edut Sheker, presenting false testimony in a court proceedings. The court must rely upon individuals who testify to a particular event by particular people at a particular time. The court must work on the presumption that witnesses would not be willing to perjure themselves and risk imprisonment, so hence they must believe the testimony, and if the testimony is ultimately proven to be false, there is a wrongful conviction of an innocent individual. This would be one of the reasons why many jurisdictions have taken positions against the implementation and application of the death penalty. Odd man out of this group is the Sinat Habriot. Sinat, the noun, with the shoresh Shin Nun Aleph, to hate. Briot, with the shoresh of Bet Resh Aleph, to create. Briot, humanity. Sinat Habriot is one who has a hatred for people. People's hate is the translation from the Chabad Siddur. There is a fancy word for Sinat Habriot, and that is misanthropy, which is the general hatred, dislike, distrust, or contempt of the human species, human behavior, or human nature. A misanthrope or a misanthropist, someone who holds such views or feelings. The request in the Yehi Ratzon is to keep me, the individual, away from such an individual who is a Sinat Habriot. And by way of digression from the Wikipedia, misanthropy is the number 1 social malady. And finally, me'alila, once again, a noun from the verb ayin lamed lamed, is to behave ruthlessly, to act wickedly, to abuse, to maltreat, to concoct a false charge, to accuse falsely. And strangely enough, ayin lamed lamed also translates as to exalt and to praise somebody. In this situation where we are requesting God's assistance and protection, any one of the first 5 would be applicable. The Chabad Siddur translates the Alila as calumnious charges. A calumny is a false and malicious statement designed to injure the reputation of somebody or something, which appears to be similar to any of the first three in this group, Lashon Hara, Malshinut, and Edut Sheker. Nevertheless, our translation reads now as follows. Yehi Ratzon Milfanecha, a request from HaKadosh Baruch Hu protection, mi Lashon Hara, a malicious tongue, mi Malshinut, from slander, mi Edut Sheker, and from false testimony. Also from unwarranted hatred from another human being, and finally from false charges.